Now, the Zodiacs are a pretty fascinating organization within Hunter x Hunter. I mean, you have your cat boy, rat boy, dragon dude, chicken chick, and of course the most unfortunate Zodiac sign being the deadbeat dad, who has only ever taught his son one very important lesson, which is obviously to subscribe to the NewWorldReview for regular Hunter x Hunter content uploaded straight into your YouTube feed. Hello and welcome to the NewWorldReview, your source for everything anime and manga, and today I would like to present a discussion surrounding the Zodiacs of Hunter x Hunter, and quite specifically, we are going to be ranking them. Now, how are we going to achieve this? Are we ranking them by power, intelligence, prestige? No, none of that. Because in this case, we are going to go with a much easier metric to generate, which is straight up popularity. So a while ago on this channel, I put up a straw poll and I asked you all to vote for your favorite member of the original set of Zodiacs. I didn't include the two newer members because I didn't think it would be particularly fair, given who they are. Although at the same time, I guess you could say the same thing about the older members. Doesn't matter. At the time of this recording, this poll has received just under 3,700 votes, which is amazing. And I think it gives us a nice snapshot of the Hunter x Hunter community, or at the very least, the Hunter x Hunter fans who watch this channel. So we're going to go through all of them from least popular to most popular. And of course, I will be adding my own thoughts along the way. So with that out of the way, let's commence with the ever unfortunate 12th and last place, who is SACCHO, having received a total of 21 votes. Yes, 21 votes out of, almost 4,000. Poor guy. But in any case, SACCHO represents the horse member of the Zodiacs, although I don't know, by appearance alone you could really potentially mistake him for being the rat member, until you meet PARISTON anyway, and then you see that that's a definite rat. I think that SACCHO ends up being quite forgettable though, because his design is actually more on the understated side of the Zodiac scale. We were introduced to this gigantic group of colorful characters of all shapes and sizes, and then here's this relatively normal guy with some muted colors, and his only real distinguishing feature is his face. I just don't think that he's that well equipped to stand out at the moment, which may change if we get to know more about him. But right now, all I can say is that he is a double star problem hunter, which is kind of fascinating actually. I have no idea what a problem hunter is or does, but I'm picturing a man who goes around solving various deadly NEM puzzles or something along those lines, maybe like a Hunter x Hunter equivalent of Sherlock Holmes, where they are a horse face. So it's a shame to see you this far down the list, but I guess someone had to come in at last place. Moving into 11th place now, we have SAIYU with 24 votes, and wow, this was a bit of a surprise to me, because I don't think I would personally rank SAIYU this low, but to be fair, I am quite partial to his design. I really like the whole Sun Wukong inspiration, which makes all the sense in the world because he does of course represent the monkey position. But I think what shocks me most here is that SAIYU is actually far more of a relevant character than most of the Zodiacs have been in the story thus far, and without spoiling anything, he does become something of a plot point in the manga, and I guess that ends up adding quite a lot of interest to him for me personally, because now whenever he turns up, I am paying extra attention to him rather than just going, ooh, a Zodiac. But clearly the rest of you don't necessarily feel the same way, and that is fine. There are plenty of other magnificent figures to choose from amongst this cohort. One of which would be 10th place GINTA, who I would go so far as to say is the most visually distinct member of the Zodiacs, although admittedly his design can be a bit of a love it or hate it situation. Like for example, when I was a mopey teenager, I would have hated a character like this because I just wanted everyone to look cool at all times. However, over time, I have actually developed quite a strong appreciation for the weirder character designs, so much so that I don't think I would have had GINTA this far down on my personal ranking. I actually quite like that Togashi chose to be very bold with this guy, going full on hairy chest, all of the afro, and why not cap things off with the Hunter x Hunter equivalent of a Union Jack proudly displayed upon GINTA's vast belly. And he's also pretty interesting because he's highly subject to emotion of any kind, be it incredible rage or empathetic tears. So yeah, pretty intriguing guy, but I can understand why many of you aren't quite sold on him. So let's move on to number 9 being Gel with 34 votes, once again out of well over 3,000, so we definitely have something of a low tier group forming here. Gel is someone who I would personally place close to last though, because here's the thing, when I think about Gel, I don't actually think any thoughts occur. I see her face in my mind and I have nowhere to go from there, primarily because she hasn't really done anything in the series. Although to her credit, she did actually show one of her abilities, which had her transform her arm into a snake, which is cool, because it does make me wonder exactly how she achieves this. Bodily metamorphosis is pretty rare in the NEN world, and usually reserved for magical beasts like the Kiriko or even the Royal Guard Yuppie. So there's some definite factors going in Gel's favor here, as well as her expertise in the realm of science and general analytical ability. But on the other hand, her reserved nature does generally push her into the background for me, and apparently for most of you as well. For number 8, we have CLUCK, a botanical hunter and a Zodiac who rather obviously represents the chicken. It really makes you wonder which came first. Was the character named CLUCK and then granted the chicken role, or was she given the chicken role and then did she change her name to CLUCK? The classic chicken and the CLUCK paradox there. But in addition to her avian fierce aesthetic, CLUCK stands out to me because she has a more extroverted personality, and I think that always helps in huge group dynamics like the Zodiacs. So she is quite short-tempered and eager to tell people to shut up, which is fun, especially when said anger is directed at a certain PARISTON. And in terms of Nen, CLUCK has also shown a sliver of her abilities, which seems to involve mass pigeon manipulation, which probably makes her something of an ultimate messenger, which even in this digital world is incredibly useful because the pigeons can find hunters in circumstances where conventional communication would not work. But yeah, solid design coupled with hints of personality and abilities, which I suppose has landed CLUCK here today. Next up is one that really shocked me though, because in number 7 we have Botabai, and I have nothing to conclude other than people are really sleeping on this guy. I mean, he is one of only 3 triple-star hunters that we know of, and in addition to that, he is also a terrorist hunter and has a side career as a public prosecutor. Plus, he also happens to be the most senior member of the Zodiacs, representing the ever-cool dragon role, and he has also been implied to be extraordinarily powerful, with one common belief being that he was close in ability to that of Isaac Netero. Although upon examining the official translation, admittedly all it says is that Botabai was close to Netero, which almost certainly means that they were more good friends than anything else. Still, Netero doesn't really associate himself with weak beings because it tends to disgust him, so I think there is a lot of hype behind Botabai for me personally. I feel like I would have him in at least 4th place, I think. But the public have spoken, and I'm afraid that he will have to settle for 7th right now. Taking a leap forward in votes now, in 6th place is KANZAI, who, yeah, I can certainly see his popularity. I mean, he represents a kind of cool bratty delinquent with sharp teeth and a general aesthetic that reflects his position as the tiger zodiac, a very popular animal. And like CLUCK, he's also another short-tempered member, which is always fun, and similarly, it does make him stand out just that little bit more. Not that he necessarily needs to, given that he is a bright yellow existence and will always pop in any image. And in fact, you might even be able to blame KANZAI for some of the neglect of SAIYU, because KANZAI does that whole yellow color scheme to a much larger degree, making SAIYU seem, a bit like a budget KANZAI. But what I like about him is that despite being a zodiac, KANZAI is often a bit of an ignorant fool, because he seems almost completely unaware of the world around him, and he forgets very basic information like the kanji for election, so that generates some genuine interest as to how he managed to get this position. Although the answer to that is more than likely a case of Netero just being amused by him and placing him amongst the zodiacs, which he did have a tendency to do. But getting serious now, we have number 5 being PYON, who obviously represents the ever adorable rabbit zodiac. And she is definitely the, one might say, token cute female of the group. But PYON comes equipped with some decent personality, as well as a core role in the chairman election arc, as she was the host of each round of voting. And her presence did make these proceedings much more exciting than one would expect an election to be. And I also think it's quite easy to forget that PYON is also an incredibly powerful character though, as are all of the zodiacs. I mean, KANZAI made the pretty bold statement that they are all significantly above the abilities of both Moral and Nov, so that is a pretty grand statement. But PYON has also been ranked by Hisoka as a solid 7.7 when it comes to general power, which yes, was lower than KANZAI and GINTA, but way above almost every other pro hunter present at the first round of voting, which while Hisoka may have been disappointed, is still a pretty big endorsement of PYON's abilities, and I would love to see her in action properly one day. But we are now left with our final 4, and MIZAISTOM is the first up in that regard, securing 285 votes. So I personally believe that MIZAISTOM is one of the most solid characters to have come out of this particular group, and I am thrilled that he has made it this high, even if maybe I would have bumped him up 1, possibly even 2 positions. Initially, he might be a bit off-putting because he does have this very clear cow chic going on outfit-wise, but the more I saw MIZAISTOM, the more I grew to love it, because it's actually quite sleek and professional after you get over the whole cow texture. He's also one of the zodiacs that inspires the most respect from me, mainly due to his interactions beyond the anime story. In the manga, MIZAISTOM is a source of utter fascination, capable of holding an intellectual confrontation with someone on Kurapika's level and very accurately analyzing the likely results of the Succession War. He also has a very intriguing Hatsu known as Cross Game, which has to do with 3 colored cards which have varying effects combined with the limitations that he has set himself, so he's definitely on the more interesting side of the zodiacs. For number 3 though, we have our current chairman of the Hunter Association, CHEADLE Yorkshire, who secured 312 votes. And while I'm much less of a fan of her design than say MIZAISTOM, I do love the character in general. I think that CHEADLE represents some of the greatest insight we receive in the series, and I was very thrilled when she became the chairman just because it gives us a different perspective in every way to that of Netero. And you can see that most obviously in the changes that she made to the Hunter exam, which now seems to favor more psychological testing rather than mass survival of death games. And she's also far more empathetic, which makes sense because she is a disease hunter, which can more accurately be described as hunting for cures to diseases. So she's definitely who we want during, I don't know, maybe a global pandemic. And she's also a triple star hunter, which is amazing given how rare they are, although all 3 known triple star hunters are indeed members of the Zodiacs. One of which is our second place contender, PARISTON Hill, a one-time vice chairman of the association and very briefly, the actual chairman of the Hunter Association. But he comes into this with a pretty staggering 1,215 votes, which is almost exactly 1/3 of the total votes of the entire poll. And who can blame anyone for voting for this rat? PARISTON is, in my opinion, one of, if not the most fascinating character that Togashi has ever created. And the only negative thing I have to say about him is that we simply have not seen more of him. Every time he appears, he just brings more and more questions and intrigue, but he also has this terrifying aura of cruelty surrounding him that you can never quite understand, juxtaposed to his overly nice outer shell. But deep down, there is an extraordinary monster in PARISTON Hill, and one that I do look forward to exploring one day, although that does come with great trepidation. And now let's conclude with our obvious number 1 position and the most favored Zodiac of the fans, being GING Freaks, who received 1,421 votes. And once again, yeah, it's hard to blame anybody for voting for GING, because he comes equipped with every weapon of intrigue that PARISTON holds, as well as the promise of being a Nen prodigy, the likes of which we have probably never seen in humanity. And it is always a pleasure to see GING engage in mental battles, and his endless fascination to explore the Dark Continent is always appealing as well. Personally though, I definitely would have placed GING below PARISTON and possibly even below MIZAISTOM, because GING just doesn't quite pique my interest like the other 2 do, but he is one of the most profound characters in Hunter x Hunter, so this is not necessarily a surprise. And also, I did very much expect GING and PARISTON to be number 1 and 2 on this list. That's just what happens when you get an entire arc focusing on the 2 of them, but I do also feel like if I switched them out with their replacements, then, well, we would have had a very similar situation occur. But for now, congratulations to the world's most questionable father, GING Freaks, for being voted as the most popular Zodiac member in Hunter x Hunter. And just to tack on to this conclusion, I actually found this process quite fun and insightful. It's great to know what you guys are thinking, and I want to try doing a bit more of this. So as a result, I have another poll up right now in the community section of my channel, asking you to vote for your favorite member of the Phantom Troop, which I think should have some much closer results than an examination of the Zodiacs. So please do go and add your voice to that. But what do you guys think? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below, or even join my Discord server. And if you'd like to see more Hunter x Hunter content, then please do go and check out some of my other videos, or even subscribe to the channel for regular Hunter x Hunter glory delivered straight into your YouTube feed. But for now, this has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.